All right, let's take a look at example 4. We have absolute values involved, and so once again, we got to ask those two questions. Do I have an absolute value by itself on one side? Well, sure. That's an absolute value by itself. That's an absolute value by itself on one side. Is the other side a non-negative number? Well, yeah. Once I take the absolute value, no matter what that x is, once I take the absolute value, that will be non-negative. So what we have here technically does fit those two requirements. And so that tells me I'm allowed to use the absolute value property to say the stuff inside the absolute value could equal the stuff on the right, so 6x plus 4, or the stuff inside the absolute value could equal the opposite of the stuff on the right. So now we have our two equations to solve. We have a little more work than some of our previous examples, but the big thing is the absolute value is gone. Now I do want to take a step back to say I sort of should have been a little more precise here. This will get you the two answers that work. Technically, what should have happened is we should have said 9x plus 1 equals the absolute value of 6x plus 4, or 9x plus 1 equals the opposite of the absolute value of 6x plus 4. Then we could use the absolute value property again. That's going to get us a total of 4 equations. They're all going to boil down to the same two equations we have written down there. So we're not going to worry too much about being super picky there, but if this was a more advanced math class, I'd go through all those nitty-gritty details with you. Just believe me, they're going to boil down to these two situations here. And then we just solve them. So for the equation on the left, we're going to subtract 6x from both sides. Then we can subtract the 1. Then we can divide by the 3, and there's an answer. X is 1. For the right-hand side here, we're going to want to distribute the negative. Then we can add 6x to the other side, getting us 15x. Then we can subtract 1 to the other side. We're going to get negative 5/15, which simplifies down to negative 1/3. And so we're going to get two answers again. Took a little more work to get there. But the big thing I want to point out is if you have an absolute value on the left and an absolute value on the right, then that really does meet the requirements that we were looking for. We do have an absolute value by itself on one side, and the other side is a non-negative number.